السلام عليكم ورحمة الله. بعد أكثر من عامين على قيام الحكومة الهندية المتطرفة بقوميتها الهندوسية بقيادة رئيس الوزراء ناريندرا مودي بتجريد كشمير الخاضعة للإدارة الهندية من حكمها الذاتي المحدود، حين ألغت الوضع الخاص للمنطقة الذي يكفله دستور الهند منذ عقود، خيم الجمود والفراغ السياسي في تلك الجغرافيا التي تعد بين أكثر المناطق عسكرة في العالم وأكبر سجن اليوم. وحتى الاقتصاد بحسب التجار والصناعيين انهار مع فقدان الآلاف من الوظائف وارتفاع معدلات البطالة وسط تفشي جائحة كورونا أيضا، بينما يستمر القمع غير المعقول للحقوق المدنية والديمقراطية من دون هوادة، وتتواصل الاعتقالات العشوائية والمضايقات والاعتداءات والانتهاكات بحق جميع شرائح الكشميريين ولا سيما النساء والأطفال من خلال قوانين صارمة وظالمة ومستبدة وتعنت القوات الهندية. وقد تضمنت خطوة الحكومة الهندية تلك رفع الحظر المفروض على التوطين الدائم لغير الكشميريين في المنطقة، وهي خطوة يخشى السكان المحليون أنها تهدف إلى إحداث تغيرات ديمغرافية، بينما زعمت حكومة حزب بهاراتيا جناتا ذي عقيدة الRSS اليمينية المتطرفة أن التغييرات ستؤدي إلى تنمية أفضل للمنطقة وتعزيز اقتصادها. لكن الخبراء والمحللين السياسيين يقولون إن الوضع تدهور بشكل كبير وملحوظ في العامين الماضيين. للوقوف عند آخر التطورات المتعلقة بحقوق الكشميريين الإنسانية والمدنية وحق تقرير المصير وتفاعل العالم مع هذه الأزمة المستمرة لعقود، يطيب لنا أن نستقبل من إسلام آباد موشال حسين مالك، رئيسة منظمة السلام والثقافة وزوجة المعتقل السياسي ياسين مالك، مؤسس جبهة تحرير جامو وكشمير. أهلا بكم إلى حلقة جديدة من الداخل. معكم زينب صفار، تابعونا. موشال حسين مالك, chairperson of Peace and Culture Organization, artist, freedom fighter, craft revivalist and peace advocate, wife of Kashmir's revolutionary liberation leader Yasin Malik. Welcome to Min al-Dakhil from the inside, Moshal.
Assalamu alaikum. Thank you for inviting me, Zainab.
Wa alaikum assalam. Pure pleasure to have you always. Well, what is the latest concerning the situation of Yasin Malik?
It's a very frightening situation, because the last time when you met me in Islamabad, he was jailed, but 5th of August 2019 hadn't happened. That's basically a day when the Kashmiris became complete refugees on their own land. And a few months before that, my husband was jailed on 22nd of February 2019 on our 10th wedding anniversary, which was very painful. And since then, he has been kept in various jails, and now for the past 2 years, he's in the hard death cell. And it's the 5 by 7 feet death cell with an open toilet, and his health is fragile, and he has been physically and mentally tortured there many times. And I have not been allowed, nor our 9-year-old daughter. She's been deprived of, speaking to her father, or a video conference with him or video call. So India is a signatory to the rights of Geneva Conventions on the Rights of Prisoners and many other rights or conventions where India has signed, but it has violated in the situation of Kashmir, and especially my husband.
Sure.
And disturbing situation, especially of treating a man worse than a terrorist who happens to be the topmost peaceful resistance leader of liberation for his people, and how he's being treated without being given any legal access, and where the judge is unilaterally making decisions and opening 35-year-old fake cases against him, all based on revenge and vendetta. So that is...
This is, Michelle, utterly appalling and inhumane, as is the case of every Kashmiri in Jammu and Kashmir. Jammu and Kashmir experienced a massive surge in coronavirus cases due to the Indian government's mismanagement of the COVID-19 response in this highly militarized region, which had already suffered a debilitating lockdown before the pandemic started, according to reports. How do you describe the current situation in Jammu, Kashmir, and the life under siege there?
Oh God, I don't even have words to describe the situation, how it is for the Kashmiri people, especially when 5th of August 2019 took place. As we all know, Kashmir was in a double lockdown, in a siege, in a curfew, and all the rights of Kashmiri people were snatched from them. Already, we are the highest occupation over there, and the only two vegetations that grow there are the Indian Army boot and the graveyard of Kashmiris keep expanding. But then a few months when the momentum of condemnation against this draconian act committed by India, the whole world was uproaring and protesting and condemning it. And we saw global protests happening in favor of Kashmiris and to save them from this genocide. But sadly, the tragedy of Corona took over the world and the whole world was locked down. So I don't know, maybe you call it karma, you call it what goes around, comes around, or whatever. But now people can slightly relate to what Kashmiris have been going on. You know, the strikes, the prolonged curfews over there, and the protests that go on, and how it is like to have your children not be deprived of going to school for months and months, and losing jobs, and losing your loved ones suddenly. But then in that situation, India got an extra edge, an extra advantage when the global attention was more focused on combating this invisible enemy called COVID-19. And was facing colossal damages economically and everything, emotionally, physically. And at that time, India focused more on the killing spree. It didn't provide any any testing kits in the beginning. Vaccines came much later. And then I remember there were ventilators, there were some available ventilators in some of the hospitals in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir, and they were also transferred to the army camps and to the army hospitals to look after the occupying forces if they caught this virus or this COVID. And I remember a lot of the testing kits were also transported to other states of India, and they were taken away from Kashmiris, and a lot of paramedical staff, the Kashmiri doctors, they were targeted if they were, looking after Kashmiri patients. So it's a horrific situation. And at the same time, when Kashmiri people were already confined to their homes, and then this COVID spread all over, and it was something which was something very impossible for them, who were already facing, a hostile situation and lack of medical facilities, and you have this epidemic of pellet blindness over there, blinded people, and handicapped people arrested. So at that time, India took an extra edge and started issuing residency certificates and citizenship to Indians. In Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The way
I will talk, Michelle, about this particular issue in detail, but allow me to ask you, in the year 2022, could the stories get far grimmer and more hawkish? Tell us more about the human rights abuses in the valley in terms of banning internet services, molesting women, butchering youngsters, homes damaged and civilian properties, cordon and search operations, arbitrary, actually, cordon operations, extrajudicial killings. What can you tell us about that?
Oh, there's so much to tell you, Zainab. I mean, it's ongoing. New forms of human rights violations are being invented by the Indian state authorities and the occupational forces. I mean, there's no end to it. Worst lockdowns, crackdowns, killings, arrests, and targeting people, especially rape as a weapon of war, has been used for over 70 years. But now you can't even keep an account of how many rape victims or children raped or molested or harassed over there. There's absolutely no accountability or no exact record of it, because now India is not just targeting the political leadership, it is also targeting a few left human rights defenders living in Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir. The way we have statistical record in, the archives in the case of Palestine, and they take that record to the ICJ and the ICC. We can't even afford that. It's a completely dismembered state, and we are being kicked out of our homes. We are made refugees, and residency certificates are being issued to Indians. Rape is being used as a weapon of war, lots of pellet victims, and our economic rights, our social rights, our political rights, our religious rights, all of them have been taken away. And our religious mosques are being, demolished. Hindu mandirs are being constructed over there. They want to totally change this land into a majority Hindu region, which is a majority Muslim area.
What about the international interaction? What about the international action and awareness vis-a-vis Kashmir? Why, Michelle, have you dubbed Human Rights Day as a quote-unquote hypocrisy day?
Of course, that's very important, because it is the responsibility of the international world, because Kashmiris are the principal party of the dispute. We have over a dozen resolutions. We have India as a party, Pakistan as a party, but the main party is the international community, which happens to be the UN. It is their responsibility. And then at the same time, we saw on 27th of February 2019 that nuclear codes were exchanged between India and Pakistan. And if that kind of situation emerges again, which we see during the fascist Indian regime, that there are high chances of even a micro-nuclear exchange taking place, God forbid, between India and Pakistan over Kashmir, especially due to the Hindutva, the RSS regime in India, the way they are doing ethnic cleansing, they're doing the highest crime of genocide. How will the world, just ignore the Kashmir issue with a blind eye and just go on having relations with India? It's aggravating with every second, with every moment. And then we have lost the control of the educational rights of Kashmiris. Now the educational quota is being given to Indian students in Kashmir. The jobs that were present for the Kashmiris, that ratio is now shifted to Indians. And then you have all the Waqf committee, which looks after the religious shrines, that's in the control of Delhi. Then you look at all our tourist resorts.
True.
Total economy depends on is a horticulture and the tourism and handicraft industry. That is now in the complete control of India. And we've lost everything, the bureaucracy, in the police, everywhere. You just have Indians, growing. And then thousands of, lakhs of land, acres of land is being allotted from Indian-occupied Jammu and Kashmir to the Indian business community. And the earmarking, indefinite earmarking is taking place in various districts of Kashmir, and it is being allotted to non-state subjects holders in the name of investment and industry. So they are totally colonializing it, dismembering us and us towards concentration camps. And that is the ground situation over there. And the ramifications of the chronic nature of this pendency of this long-standing dispute, it's aggravating. And without anyone taking ownership of bringing both the countries on the table and resolving the issue once and for all, and granting Kashmiris their birthright of plebiscite of freedom, of right to self-determination, which the world had promised. It's no rocket science. It's not something that this issue is impossible. It's in the interest of the regional and the global past that this issue must be resolved.
Sure.
And you see happening within India. There's fascist policies, what they're doing to the minorities. But luckily, after 2 years of strong protests by the farmers of India, they have kind of succeeded in getting
They have succeeded in the repeal of the 3 farm laws. That's very true.
Yeah.
This is when it comes to the farmers in India. But as far as the Jammu and Kashmir and Kashmiris are concerned, there are more drastic laws being put into practice in the wake of the Indian Citizenship Amendment Act, the CAA, and New Delhi's demographic designs in Kashmir, especially that Hindu nationalists have long wanted to reshape the region by imposing stringent laws like the Unlawful Activities Prevention Act or the UAPA, which has been used in Indian-controlled or occupied Kashmir as a tool for tightening control over its population, as well as the new residency rules such as the Jammu and Kashmir grant of domicile certificate procedure, which are aimed at shifting the demographics of the Muslim majority region. Can you explain these perilous laws more, Moshal?
Oh yes, it's frightening. The domicile certificates, 45 lakh domiciles have been issued to Indians in the past 2 years, and especially during the COVID times when the whole world's focus was elsewhere. India, instead of being God-fearing and looking at the ground situation and saving humanity, went one step further in committing genocide. And in this process of, changing the demography and issuing licenses, investment opportunities, export licenses to India, and taking away the economy of Kashmir and taking away our property and ownership rights and our voter rights, snatching them from us. And their game plan is in the next 1 year, they're going to make this into a majority Indian region, and then they will allow the UN to come and do plebiscite, because the pace at which they're going, I think they're almost half the population of the region now. And in the next year or so, if they give another 50 lakh Indians domicile, then they will transform into a majority. And at the same time, we saw an APC being conducted by Mr. Modi, in which he announced the delimitation policy, in which they, because it's a majority Muslim area and there are more constituencies in the so-called farcical elections that go on over there with hardly 2 to 3% voter turnout, and which Kashmiris reject, because all these elections do is that they pass draconian laws. But even in that, now for the fake puppet representative that they used to have, a few Kashmiri Muslims to represent the entire public, though it was boycotting. But now also they've decided that instead of the Muslims, they are going to give that seat to BJP people who are Hindus from India, who are not even from that region. And during this delimitation, because it is a parliamentary democracy over there, so it's based on the basis of population. The electoral process, but they have transformed that here on the basis of geography, because they have captured Jammu in 1947 through this, ethnic cleansing and changing the demography, when 5 lakh Muslims were slaughtered and their families were, left on the roads. So it was the RSS that did in 1947, and they were not in power. So imagine now they're in thumping majority right now.
And they have all this
they want
landslide power.
Which is temples, which is cosmetically changed. They want to do the same in the valley in Kashmir.
True. Observers say that since India revoked nearly all of Article 370 in the Constitution, stripping Jammu and Kashmir of the autonomy it had been guaranteed, more local young people have been drawn towards armed resistance against Indian rule. Kashmir and Palestine have always been a struggle for self-determination. 2 occupied territories and 2 societies, each with a different heritage and a large geographical gap, yet they share the same fate. What can you tell us about that, Michelle?
It's really a tragedy when we look at the human rights violation in Palestine and Kashmir, and the world's criminal silence, or even if they condemn, no action is being taken against the aggressors to stop them. no form of penalty or sanctions being imposed, economic or defense sanctions against such occupying forces for violating international law, humanitarian law, Geneva Conventions, UN Security Council resolutions. Everything has been superseded, surpassed, and then such black laws have been passed like a death warrant, literally, against an entire population. When 5th of August 2019 happened, through a stroke of a pen, a presidential order was passed, through which people became refugees on their own land. I believe that it's a testing time for us, but I think it's a bigger testing time for the world at large, because due to globalization being a global village, what goes around comes around. 9/11 proved that the whole world was signaled unsafe when 9/11 took place. But now you have nuclear flashpoint, and there you have Beit al-Muqaddas. So it's not just holy for the Muslims; it's holy for every religion, that place. And having a war there is like, the entire humanity fighting against each other, every religion heading towards a crusade. And the same goes for Kashmir, because it's a nuclear flashpoint. If that escalates, then you have 2/3 of the global population being wiped out, even with a micro nuclear exchange. And the Hindutva regime sadly believes that, if they go towards extremism and fascism and saffronization, they'll become more popular and get cash more in the woods.
Yes.
So they think
that's why.
I think so.
Yes, that's why, Michelle.
India's secular fabric is broken, but it's not just broken, but the movements that were already active over there. You've seen what's happened over there right now. What has happened, with the Dalits, the Muslims, the forced conversions of Christians, attacks on churches, and RSS, which is backing this Modi regime, has been involved in numerous terrorist activities in the past, during Mecca bombings, attacking churches, burning Dalits, and attacking the Sikhs, the Gujarat killings. It's so much more, and they're terrorist organizations. So the world needs to impose sanctions on RSS and ban their political party, because it's not just jeopardizing India's stability in Kashmir.
That's very true. That's very true. That's why the resolving of the Kashmir conflict is central to regional and global peace. Hopefully the day when the Kashmiris of the occupied valley would celebrate Human Rights Day as free citizens is not far away. Yasin Malik, chairperson of Peace and Culture Organization, wife of detained Kashmir's revolutionary leader, liberation leader, Yasin Malik. Thank you very much for your valuable insights, Michelle.
Thank you.
Bless you and be safe. Always a pleasure to have you. ودائما الشكر لكم مشاهدينا الكرام على طيب المتابعة. للتفاعل أكثر تابعونا على صفحات السوشيال ميديا، وحتى نلتقي من كل فريق عمل من الداخل من كل الميادين. السلام عليكم ورحمة الله.